This edition of the Weightlifting World podcast is brought to you by Warrior Princess, apparel and accessories for ladies in weightlifting, strength sport and CrossFit, also featuring the official Nadezhda Evstekina clothing range. Check out Warrior Princess on the web at www.wpwear.uk.
Welcome to this edition of the Weightlifting World podcast. Today we're joined by someone who was seen as a huge hope and still is seen as a huge hope in the world of British weightlifting, Darius Jokarzadeh. Hey Darius, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You're in Cardiff at the moment, I believe?
Yeah.
Excellent. Are you living there full time now?
Yeah, I'm finished off my university degree over here.
Yeah, okay. And so what do you say you were studying?
Genetics and medicine.
What was the interest in getting into that?
I've always been into the science part of things, and with the medical side, I'm quite into. I quite aspire to help other people, and I think that'll do pretty well.
And the goal is to become a doctor in the end?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Excellent.
Is the goal also to genetically modify yourself and become stronger?
Well, I've already done that.
Just initially, if you just tell us a bit about your growing up. Your young life, and just in any way that you can see that kind of led you towards an athletic path.
Growing up, surprisingly, I wasn't that athletic at all. I was quite a fat kid growing up until the age of 10. I was tall, but nothing outstandish. I've always been strong, but as the sporting side, I did a bit of rugby at the age 12. Did a little bit in school, but then at the age of 15, when I started having my growth spurts and my improvements in strength, then it really started to get serious.
Yeah.
I started off as a rower at 16 years old. That went really well. I went through a tall and talented program, and within a few months, I was the Welsh champion, and I was getting really well at one stage, but I started growing more and more and more until I got too heavy for the sport. I was 125 kilos at 16 years old, and I was 6'7". 6'6" back then. I grew an inch after that. So I was a pretty big specimen, but I got too big for rowing. So I went into weightlifting. I had a weightlifting coach at the time, which did the rowing side of the weights with me. Yeah. And he said, why don't you come into weightlifting full time? So I did that, aspiring to go for the London Olympics. But it was a really strong shot. I was new into the sport, and then 10 months' time, it was the qualifier. And I almost got the qualification. I lifted above my head, but the qualification I needed, the judges ruled it an incomplete lift, unfortunately. So it's cost me an Olympics.
Yeah. So I mean, just the coach that spotted you, that was kind of doing your strength and conditioning in coaching. Who was that?
Roger Thomas.
Roger Thomas. Okay. Rodri Thomas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he carried on being your coach, didn't he? Up until recently, or still is?
No, up until recently. He stopped coaching me about 6 months ago now.
Okay. And so, where were you living at the time? Were you in Cardiff then?
Yeah, I've been in Cardiff most of my life.
Okay. Did you ever move over to do some training at Empire in Bristol?
I've gone over a few times for a few socials and stuff, and again, I love the social aspect of the lifting, and especially having a good crowd in front of you with ambition too. It pushes you to that extra bit further. Sure.
Were your parents athletic people?
My father is 5'11" and my mum is 5'10". My dad used to be a wrestler, so he has a lot of strength sports in his family. And my mum used to do high jump, so there was a fair bit of athleticism, but nothing extraordinary, I wouldn't say.
Were they both Iranian or just your father?
Just my father.
Okay. And
did he do wrestling back in Iran, or did he do it over here?
Back in Iran. You got into quite a high level, and I think he came over here then and he did boxing, but I'm not sure how. I think he got into British level, but I'm not sure how far they got with that.
Very good.
Because there was a rumour at one point floating around the sport that somewhere in your heritage there was some link to Hossein Razazadeh. Was there any truth to that? I haven't really been able to. I've gone to a few dues and I've seen him there. I'm not sure if it's exactly a connection. Maybe if it's like a third cousin or something. But I can't necessarily say 100%. Yeah.
You can always make something up.
Yeah. Hell, I'm related then.
Yeah.
So I guess your first big competition, would it have been
either Commonwealth champs or Commonwealth youth champs?
Probably.
I think that would have been 20.
European Juniors was probably my big one in Israel, but my biggest competition was probably the World Juniors, where I got the silver medal.
Yeah, that would have been silver in, what year was that? Was that
13.
2013, did you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that comp, you did your PB clean and jerk of 2:15.
Yeah.
That's correct. But you obviously you spent a few years building up to that through some internationals. Starting off in sort of 2011, where you were snatching around about 125, cleaning and jerking around 160, and within a couple of years, as I say, you're up to sort of 170, 173, 215. What do you feel allowed you to develop so rapidly from numbers that were still very good, especially for your age at the time, but to numbers that were world class?
Honestly, I think it's just a bit of consistency, and I am lucky with my genetics. I can kind of like pull it off, and through the years leading up to that too, I had, especially after missing the London Olympics, I took 6-7 months off. It was really heartbreaking knowing that and seeing the Olympic Games, but knowing I believed I should have gone. So that really did kill me.
Yeah.
I think if I did consistently go a bit harder and on like a further occasions, I think I could have done more again, because we're building up to the 2013 Junior Worlds. I think I lifted in one competition before.
Okay.
That was the European Seniors. So I think with a bit more effort, I could have done a lot better again.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you. At the time, I think you should have gone. And I wrote an article in May of 2012, and I'll just read you the paragraph that I wrote in that. It was Gareth Evans would be the obvious safe choice, but my wild card has to be the Welshman of Iranian descent. His progress has been meteoric, and if he continues at anything even remotely approaching this rate, then he'll be totaling something very respectable by August, even by international standards. Given that he wins the British champs and lifts the B standard, we simply must take him. I know I said this wasn't a development competition, but in the case of Jokarzadeh, we clearly have a potentially amazing talent on our hands. Someone who could win Commonwealth medals for Wales and might potentially even get a sniff of a European medal for Britain in years to come.
God, it really gets you.
It does.
I hope you're in tears on the other end there.
Thank you for that. I never read that.
But no, I mean, I think that was, to me, that was how I felt at the time, and I stand by that. Is that basically how you would feel?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Yeah, I think it was a case of that. There's very few opportunities to qualify British lifters for major championships.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that it's important that we protected the guys that had a chance of getting to that kind of super elite level. There's a lot of really talented elite guys in this country, but there's those few of you, and I always kind of put you, Zoe and Rebecca Tyler in together into that kind of little group that had and have the potential to be and realise kind of elite level. And I felt that that was a prime opportunity to give obviously Zoe went, but to give yourself the opportunity to experience an Olympics, then be able to take that forward into 2016 and 2020 potentially.
Yeah, but I used the opportunity. I used it to fuel me for other things, like with American football. Then it led me on to other opportunities, and I'm a believer that everything happens for a reason. So as sour as it was at the time, and how I still had differences in opinion with a few other people, I'm sure it worked out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah. So obviously there was a significant disappointment there. At what point did you start to explore the potential of heading out to the States and trying college football? Because I remember at the time just kind of hunting around YouTube for some videos of you lifting and stumbling across a couple of kind of like almost like showreel demo videos that you'd put together. And when I saw them, I was kind of a bit like my heart sunk a little bit, that because it was obvious I'd seen that kind of stuff before, and it was obvious that you were starting to explore that. So when did that idea pop into your head, and where did that come from?
Kind of after the Olympics. I've got a lot of family over in America, and everyone's told me American football will be good for your rugby side of things, where I've never really taken to rugby.
Yeah.
So I've always been interested in something like that, and the opportunity came after the World Championships in 2000, the Junior Worlds.
Yeah.
And I had a chance to go over there on a scholarship, so I went over there, and that was that.
Okay, so which college was that?
It was Seton Hill in Pennsylvania, and just out of Pittsburgh. It was a good college.
Okay, and what did you decide to read when you were there? What were you studying at the same time?
Biochemistry, so the
similar kind of area. Okay, and what just give us a bit of background or a bit of an idea of what that experience was like. Talk about stuff like how your training changed.
Yeah.
How much? What areas stayed the same? Obviously there was a very significant change in appearance and change in body weight and so on.
Yeah, it was quite life-changing and life-defining. I went over there, I think I won the World Championships, I weighed 145 kilos, and within 2 weeks, I lost 22 kilos, and I'm not joking, it literally was 22 kilos. With the training camps over there, we did 4 hours in the morning of skills, and then we did a cardio session late at night, so it was absolutely intense. The collegiate sport over there is unreal and something else.
Yeah.
So that really did shape my body up, but I somehow managed to keep my strength, and I was still lifting some really decent numbers, and everything was going well. I went over there for a season. I went for the off season.
Yeah.
And then the next season in 2014, after the Commonwealth Games, I had a really bad concussion. My helmet came off.
Okay. Yeah.
And a pile went on top of me, and I shattered my nose in a few different places. So they ruled me out for the rest of the season, and I lost my scholarship as a consequence. So I had to.
Not good.
No, not good at all.
And obviously that's a huge issue at the moment in the NFL, especially, isn't it? The concussion issue.
Oh yeah. Well, I had a seriously bad concussion, and it's changed my personality in a few ways. I can definitely think, and I'm not as fast as I was in a few things. A few things are harder than before. And
it's funny. I had 2 concussions. I had one playing rugby where I remember taking the kick off in a match, and then I remember walking off at the end of 80 minutes, and I don't remember anything else. And that was one. And I had another concussion, getting my head trapped between a man's body and a pro wrestling ring. I can totally empathise with that, because I think my ability to process maths problems, oddly, that jumped out at me as something that I could sense a difference in.
I definitely agree, unless everything seems a lot more foggy.
Yeah, it is strange, isn't it? It doesn't. I think you kind of obviously you adjust to it and you get used to it, but I think clarity wasn't quite as good as before. So I mean, when you went in there, you'd obviously come in as one of the stronger men in the world, really, especially for your age.
Yeah.
Did you go in with a kind of a humble mentality, or did you go in thinking, I'm going to be the strongest guy in the weights room, or what was your outlook going in?
I think just being a youth in general, I look at myself even a year back before Commonwealth Games and how I was talking, everything, you evolve slowly and you think, right, this is how things happen in the world. So I went in there with a big mentality. In my mind, I was only going to go over there for a few years and go straight into the NFL. I never played any sort of football before. I never played for a team.
Yeah.
The coach just saw me over here and taught me some basic footwork. So I went over there, got thrown in the deep end with people which have been playing the sport since they were 8 years old.
Yeah.
And that was a big one for me. But I managed to do well in the camp, so I started playing. So the game was absolutely amazing. I had an absolute blast over there. And the life over there, being like independent, having to like financially support myself at 19 years old and completely, I was by myself over there really. So I had to like start fresh. So that really did teach me a lot in life.
For those that have an understanding of the game, what position did you play? Were you maybe a tight end or?
No, I played left tackle and I played a little bit defensive end.
Okay, you're very tall for a left tackle.
Yeah, I am pretty tall. I think that was the easiest position they thought I could adapt to quickly.
Okay.
I think if I would have been there for for the rest of the season, I think I'd have probably switched to defensive end because I'm pretty fast too.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know what any of those are.
So were there guys in your team, in your squad that could get anywhere near you in the gym, strength wise?
The heavier guys, surprisingly not, but a few linebackers. There was this one linebacker, I think he was 5'7".
Yeah.
And he must have weighed only around, I think he was only like 77 kilos or something.
Yeah.
And he power clean 170 I know it was with extremely ropey form.
Okay.
But I'm sure that would have been with them some extra help too, because the drugs program over there was absolutely awful. You had one scheduled drugs test, and I think it was pretty obvious that certain people were taking extra things.
Really? Was it? So it was. was it more that you felt that the university sports authorities were turning a blind eye to it and saying, we're not going to tell you to do this, but we're not going to stop you doing it? What do you think?
I just don't think it was like they even thought of it anyway. I think the NCAA as a whole, I think, there was only one drug test, and it was a scheduled drug test. So there was a window in 1 week in the off season where I think the team could have got tested.
Yeah.
And I found that, I don't know, for a sport, and there's so much money in there, people were getting scholarships and stuff.
Yeah.
I just thought it could have been a bit more well regulated.
Yeah. Is that very much opposite to your experience in weightlifting?
Yeah, well, I've been on the UK anti-doping system, so they follow me all over. Even when I was in America, I was getting tested almost every month. It was, it's a completely different world.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of your, you said you managed to maintain your strength. Did you continue to snatch and clean and jerk while you were, doing your conditioning for American football? Was that kind of accommodated by the strength and conditioning team at the college?
No, I hardly lifted at all. I never lifted up until a few months before the Commonwealth Games. It was all field strength they were concentrating on. I think they were trying to convert my weight room strength into something which I could apply on the field.
Yeah,
but that come with its strengths as well.
Yeah,
I never did hardly any weightlifting over there, and when I did, I could just come onto the bar and snatch 160, 165 out of nowhere, and it was pretty impressive to see. And my body weight as well at the time, I think at my lightest I was only weighing about 104 kilos.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was that? I mean, your physical change was obviously quite dramatic, and I think a lot of the guys that hadn't been following you and what you were doing in the States when you walked out of the Commonwealth Games was quite a shock to people. You looked like
kind of looked like you needed a good meal.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you looked like I don't know. You didn't look like a weightlifter at all. You certainly had changed a lot since the last time a lot of people had seen you on a platform.
Yeah.
Was that a conscious? Was it just the increase in the amount of training volume and cardio, or was that a conscious decision that you made to drop weight, to improve diet? How much? What did you personally do to change your habits and so forth to make that happen, or did it just happen naturally?
I'm still trying to figure out what exactly happened, because obviously with the increased training and stuff, but I was eating like a horse over there. I must have been taking in 6,000-7,000 calories, but I just couldn't keep the body weight on, and neither can I now. Even if I eat, well, at the moment I'm back into the swing of things now, and I'm probably taking in 5,000-6,000 calories in a day, and I can't get my body fat up. It usually sits around at the lowest. It probably goes around 7. In the Commonwealth Games, I was probably 7% body fat, and now I'm probably like 10 or 11.
Okay.
So even with some bulge eating and even McDonald's double cheeseburgers, I've tried a few things. It likes to sit at there now, and I'm not sure if that's due to metabolism or just growing up and my hormones levels changing, but I'm not really complaining.
It sounds like you're in luck, honestly, because you're currently talking to a couple of geezers that have never had any trouble putting on weight.
No.
So if you need any tips,
Yes.
afterwards we'll chat about it.
But it probably just came at a time when you were going through some hormonal changes and that kind of stuff, kind of age related anyway. I guess. Yeah, I guess that's probably what it was. It's probably a combination of the increase in volume coupled with it coming at that exact right time in your life.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
When you were there, is there anything that you learned or that you picked up from a coach or anything that you think would help your weightlifting career?
The work ethic, I think, compared to a weightlifter, the sessions over there, and the winters as well. It was in Pittsburgh, so
yeah.
Off season they used to get us out. You literally used to be minus 25 degrees. People would be getting frostbite, but they'd still be forcing people to go out and train. It was a completely different world. They owned you, so they made you work hard.
Yeah.
So twice a day we were doing that, and through all conditions. So I think I broke through a lot of mental barriers, and the training I did after the Commonwealth Games pushed myself hard, and I think that's why I improved so quickly.
And what was it that really made you come back for the Commonwealth Games? Was that something that you'd always planned to do, or was there a change of heart? Or
it was really last minute. I finished football over there in late May.
Yeah.
And competed in, where was it? Late July, wasn't it? So, and I never did any weightlifting over there. No weightlifting specific training. And I think my base level is probably a 190
clean and jerk and 150, and
Yeah.
I put some pretty big numbers on in that time in training before the Commonwealth Games. I snatched 180, I cleaned 220.
Yeah.
It was just sad about the consistency on the day.
Yeah.
It felt like I could have done a lot more, but it just never happened. And
Because it seemed like on the day, obviously, I mean, just thinking back, I mean, you opened at 165 on the snatch, and then you jumped to 175. I mean, that sounds like quite a big jump. Was there a reason that you went in so low? For you at least, low for you.
Yeah, I had to qualify for a funding level to get some money from.
Okay.
So that's the reason why I played the numbers game.
Okay, and I guess that was the same with the 196 on the clean and jerk.
Yeah.
Okay, so you then jumped to 175. Was that a number, in the snatch? Was that a number that you were confident in, or do you feel looking back that maybe like a 170 might have been a more sensible second attempt?
Oh no, absolutely not. I think that the plan was to go from 165, 175, and then 185. That was the eventual plan, because I think 185, 190 was definitely inside me on the day.
Okay. So
it was just a real shame I missed the second one, and it just bumped me out the groove then on missing that second lift.
Yeah, no, I think it was I guess it was sad kind of watching it, knowing that what you were capable of. And it's I mean it was a relatively competitive year, I think, for the super heavyweights. I mean, with the Canadian guy that was Georgian.
Yeah, definitely broke a few records, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it was a very competitive year. Kobaladze, yeah, and obviously
Dodgy Elbow Kobaladze.
And Damon as well. So I think that year you were meant to do the British champs in Bangor. I think you were on the posters and stuff for that event. What was the reason for not doing that event in the end?
In 2013.
This would have been.
Could have been.
Yeah, this may have been 2013 actually. Yes.
I can remember I didn't lift in it. What was that about?
Yeah, there was the British champs was in Bangor in Wales, and I think you were one of the main kind of focused on athletes. This may have been a few years back. And you didn't come to the event. What was there a reason behind that?
I think I could have been on my way to. I think it could have even been an embassy appointment for my.
Okay, that makes sense.
Side of things, I definitely remember it was youth football.
Okay. So, you'd done the Commonwealth Games, and obviously we haven't really seen you since then. And it was nice to see your name down on the start list for the British champs this year. What was the story behind that? I mean, I've heard a few rumours about some political issues. But what was really the main reason why you didn't end up competing at this year's British Champs?
I've had a really bad batch of tendonitis. Okay. I think from the training in the Commonwealth Games, it's such a low body weight, and I trained for hours at a time to try and fit everything into the month and a half I did have.
Yeah. And
I suffered it with my right knee, and I'm still just about getting over it now. And I tried training through it. I tried just doing powers, and it just got worse and worse to the stage where I couldn't even get out of car without being in some serious pain.
Yeah.
So over the last few months now, I've stripped it all the way back, and got to the stage now where I can finally put some decent training in.
Yeah.
Was it patella tendonitis?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is something I suffer with still. What have you found then that's helped that? What have you done to correct it?
I've got a real fishy diet at the moment now. So what I try and do, I go to Tesco's, I buy 2 packets of mackerel, and I try and eat them a day. I'm trying to get a lot of my protein source from fish and omega-3s, and it's a real oily fish.
Okay.
Yeah. For the first few weeks, I didn't notice a difference, but after that, everything just moved a bit better. My knees were a bit less creaky. And on top of that, I took a lot of the training back. So if I felt pain, I didn't do the lift. As soon as I felt pain, I stopped and I dropped the weight, and I just kind of like consoled it. And over, literally being weeks, it's gone up a decent few kilos to the stage now where I power snatched 150 kilos a day pretty easy. And that's from taking 7-8 months off. So
where are your actual full snatch, full clean and jerk numbers? Where are they at the moment?
I haven't gone into the deep position.
Okay.
I literally haven't trained properly since February.
Okay. So what would you say are your goals and plans moving forward into the next, year, 2 years, 3 years in the sport?
The big goal for me at the moment is Rio. It's a real big goal, again, like the Commonwealth Games, the trials in April for the European Championships, because I really don't think that Britain's going to get a spot looking at how the World Championships did.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have to qualify a top 15 place in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for around that. It's going to have to be at least a 400 total, 405. In being realistic, it'll probably be around 405 kilos.
Yeah.
So the goal is now, over this month, is to completely rip myself of my tendonitis and try and stick some body weight on, because at the moment I'm probably around 112 kilos, and I was thinking the other day I probably want to go back up to 135 or 130 kilos.
Yeah.
That's another big goal, but I'm sure I could do it with a big diet. So the goal is to get these knees better by the new year. I've got some training set up in Thailand over the next month, so I'm going to spend New Year's out there, just try and get some warm weather training out there. And I was breaking some numbers down. I'd probably want to snatch 185, 190 and match the clean and jerk with it to get a 400, 405. But I'm not pouring too much pressure on myself on this. It's a huge ask.
Yeah.
And the training, I'm going to have to be careful, because I don't want to completely get rid of the future too if I do end up busting my knees again with another bad batch of tendonitis. So I'm going to be really conscious about that.
Yes.
But that's the goal for me, to qualify for Rio.
So who is your full-time coach now?
I'm self-coached at the moment.
Okay. And so when you go to Thailand, you'll just be coaching yourself, or you have someone to work with you out there, or look at you out there?
Well, literally, I've just booked a flight over there. I found a good gym over there with the weights I need and the facilities I need. I've got a little beach hut over there, and there's some good food places around there. So that's all I've really concentrated on. And
nice.
Sorry?
And what's your current relationship like with British weightlifting? You have a good relationship with the organisation?
Yeah, I'd say it is pretty good from the past. I haven't been in contact much recently. I spoke to Tommy Yule in February at the English Championships, but I looked at the Olympic qualification policy, and April is the big one, the only one judged for the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I'm going to start going back to the scene over the next few months now.
I mean, it would obviously be. I guess realistically, the chances are, as you say, that we either won't qualify a place, or for the men at least. I think there's a chance that Zoe would go on the girls' side, but as you say, it's probably going to be on the men's side. It's probably going to need to be someone qualifying by right in terms of world ranking, and I guess that does. There is you are probably the one person that has the potential to get into those kind of numbers. And I mean, do you think it's a realistic possibility to hit?
Absolutely. I wasn't going to count my chickens before eggs hatched. Really, I've been going through so much over the last year with the university and everything too. But I went into the gym the other day, did a little warm up, went a bit heavier. I've been doing a few reps on some hang snatch, probably 90 kilos, like some sets of 10, some 12, just to get back into the feel of things. And it felt good on the day.
Yeah.
It never hurt. And I went up and I power snatched 150, and that's not too far from my top numbers. And I definitely, with the training I've been doing a lot of sprinting to try and compensate and do something for it.
Okay.
So I've always got a really, really strong power base. I think the one thing which is lacking at the moment is my strength. So maybe the deep positions like the clean and stuff, or the not so much the snatch, probably the clean.
Yeah.
I think that would be the one thing to work on, but that comes really quickly to me too. So like before the Commonwealth Games, I stuck on a real unbelievable amount of strength.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you're a very tall man, about 6'6", 6'7"?
6'7", yeah.
6'7". So, I mean, do you find squatting more challenging, or do you enjoy squatting?
I don't particularly enjoy squatting, especially front squatting. I have always had a weak front squat, and I've defied physics with it. I think my best ever front squat's 210 kilos, and I clean 225 kilos in training. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I think
possible.
We interviewed Giles Greenwood in the very first ever edition of the podcast, and he was in a similar position. I think he said his best front squat was about 220 or something. It's like, and obviously he did a 2, I think maybe a 212 and a half or something, clean and jerk.
Yeah.
So it's the taller guys. Obviously you're a little bit taller than Giles, but I mean the taller guys do seem to have that old relationship between the front squat and the clean.
It's weird, isn't it? But
yeah.
I think one thing I have been blessed with is the power. So especially on my power clean, when I was strong at that. I did 205 kilos, and it was pretty easy. So I'm sure with some decent training, I could get back up to 210, 215 power clean. And I think that's one thing I am going to try and play on is the power.
Yeah.
And try and keep that as sharp as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you approach your squatting, what kind of reps and sets do you work in? What kind of progressions? I mean, are you someone that's quite instinctive in, you go in the gym and you know, when you're in a kind of a, let's say you're doing a 2-3 month period of training, are you going in with a very set plan, or are you going in quite instinctive? How do you approach
it's
that
really
kind of thing?
instinctively. It's extremely open. I hardly follow a plan. It's day to day, really.
Okay.
So one of my big, especially in the volume stage at the moment, so it's 5s. I usually do a lot of powers, do 5s on squat lifts too. And at the end of each squat lift, so if I do a full snatch or something, I usually try and go for close to maximum on every single time.
Okay.
I find that approach, over time, it just gives you more confidence on the heavier lifts. And I find it really does help getting the PBs up.
So when you say you would, in a sense, you'd say you train almost like Bulgarian style to max almost every session. And how many sessions a week would you say that you would tend to train if you were in kind of full swing with your training?
I probably train 5 days, 2 days on 2 days, and then I'll probably do a plyometrics day as kind of like an off day.
Okay.
In between, and then I have a complete off day.
Okay, so you'll work up to max, and you'll say you're doing volume at the moment. So the kind of days where you'd work up to max, would that be coming later on in your training?
No, straight from the start.
From the start. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going off pain at the moment. I'm not trying to push my knees at all. I'm trying to keep things open because I don't want to go backwards 2 months, because I've tried it before. I've tried pushing through the pain and it just gets worse. So I'm really conscious of that, and I'm just trying to shake it away, get a completely clean slate with my knees so I can really put some hard work in the coming months.
Sure. So I mean, even in your higher volume period of training, you still have the kind of almost maximal intensity work in there, in addition to the higher volume stuff.
Definitely, if not more so with the lesser volume stuff. The higher volume, I always try and push it.
Okay, so when you say you go to max, is that kind of the sort of traditional Bulgarian way, where it was like you'd work up to 3 misses or 4 misses or whatever, or is a max to you more like where you feel like if you went any heavier, your technique would break down significantly or you'd miss it?
1 miss. I try to keep it as fluent as possible. I'm not trying to push myself for PBs on a day. I'm just trying to consolidate my technique, especially on, say, if I do power snatches for 5 or something. I'm trying to get the same technique replicated on heavier weights and get the good position and good form in.
Yeah.
As soon as I miss a weight on that, it's not a priority for me. I'm just doing it to really try and trend in that good technique on heavier weight.
And how much of your training is in just, full snatch, full clean and jerk, and front squats? And on top of that, how much do you do in the way of accessory? Obviously, you've mentioned power snatch, power cleans, but do you do other accessory work as well?
I do a lot of power work. A lot of my other training is full lifts. I try and really do a few good full lifts. Jerks from racks, I find they're absolutely amazing for me. I don't really front squat much. I do complexes, so like a front squat into the jerk or 2 front squats into a jerk. But another big thing as well I do is I try and keep the power up too. So I'm really fast over 40 yards, and I'm trying to keep it that way and keep my legs to be able to move and jump around. So before each weightlifting session, I go into the hall and I do some sprints just to warm myself up and make sure I've got no little injuries or anything. So I do a lot of jumps, so a lot of box jumps, a lot of distance jumps over multiple things.
Okay. So what was your best 40 time when you were out in the States?
40 yard?
Yeah.
I think it was 4.64.
4.64, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because normally you're talking about, I think anything under about a 4.7 is seen as good, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
you're super elite, like best of all time is around 4.3, I think, isn't it? Something like that?
Yeah, but I think I did that when I was weighing 120 kilos.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
I was really happy with that, and I think that's what got a lot of scouts' attention too, with those kind of numbers and with the strength as well. I think that's one thing I am blessed with.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're getting close to competition, what really changes? Is it just that you kind of maybe take some of the power work out and the volume stuff out and just focus on the sort of kind of intense singles?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot more. I try and keep a bit more of a consistent approach towards it, so the training's not so open. So I'll go in and I'll give myself a weight to do like 3 sets of 3 on or doubles on, and I usually do that way. If it feels exceptionally good, I'll change it then. But it's a lot more rigid in a sense, kind of like getting ready for competition style.
Yeah. And so what would you say is your next big competition or your next competition that you're focusing on? Are you going to be trying to, is there a Welsh Championship or Celtic Championship coming up early next year?
I'm going to try and qualify for the European Championships, so one before the European Championships, and then just go straight into it.
Yeah, okay. Just a few little questions just to kind of sort of tie up. Who would you say has been the most influential person on you in weightlifting so far in your career?
Probably my mum. She's the one which got me into sport in the first place. She pushed me into certain areas. She influenced me in some really good ways, and just kind of everyone gets their downtimes, but I think she really gave me the guidance to get to the positions I was, especially the World Championships in Peru. I think I had a hard few months before that, and there's a lot of questions going on around in my head, but she put me in the right direction and she helped me out.
Yeah. And I think obviously yourself and Zoe, there's in some ways there's some strong parallels there, I think, in that when you look around the world and you see these guys in these really intense full-time systems, and they're barely getting a day off of training in a year and stuff, and then you get someone like yourself or someone like Zoe that seems to almost be blessed really to be able to go out and hit world-class numbers and not really have a life that's 100% absorbed by weightlifting.
Yeah.
Does that seem fair?
That's a shame over here too. If someone give me an opportunity of saying, right, here's a setup, train twice a day and have nothing else to worry about, I'd snap that up in a moment.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's a situation, and weightlifting is at the point at the moment in the UK where, or even in the world, where that's viable in the West.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. What, are you trying to say you couldn't live on 10,000 plus £2,000 funding a year? That'd be your food bill, wouldn't it, for a couple of months?
That's the
on
thing.
your mackerel.
I eat a lot, and it takes a lot for life costs. And,
yeah, and obviously it's tough now, I guess, because obviously having lost, men having lost the kind of the UK sport funding, it does reduce those opportunities. Obviously, there is some outside funding there for the men in the British system, but it's obviously not coming through the UK sport route.
It's such a shame, isn't it? Because you look at the potential over here, especially with the CrossFit movement really beginning to take off, and you hear about people's interest and stuff. I think if a certain amount of money was pumped into the sport, I think the benefits would far reach out, say, an extra £1 million into cycling or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a real potential over here, especially it's a growing movement. Look at Zoe going on that reality TV show and stuff. It's beginning to creep up, and I think taking the funding and out really does dampen the matches to get the explosion, which I think was imminent.
Have you ever thought about trying a bit of CrossFit? Have you ever stepped foot in a box?
I've done a lot of CrossFit style training. My American football training was a lot similar to that, and I have done some really high reps on things. So like a 200 kilo squat, I did that I think 28 times or something. And
Christ.
Have you ever tried any of the kind of the key CrossFit workouts? A Grace or a Isabel or any of those?
No, I haven't. But I still do a bit of rowing now, so I wouldn't wipe that off the cards in a few years or something.
That's something you should definitely do as a challenge. Is do Grace or do Isabel.
So 30 snatches, like power snatches with 60 kilos, or 30 clean and jerks with 60 kilos, in as quick a time as you possibly can.
Okay, and is form counted in that?
Form is not counted in that. So they can be muscle snatches, whatever you like. Anything goes.
That's Grace's, is it?
That's Isabel, and Grace is clean and jerk, and that's really a power clean, almost straight into a press, a jerky press, a push press.
And what kind of times would be competitive for that?
Okay, Isabel, you're probably looking at about a minute would be the fastest around. And probably a good one for you if you.
Darius is so tall that it's going to take him 10 seconds to get the bar to arm's length.
It's true. I reckon if you could do it in under 3 for your first go, I think that'd be pretty impressive.
3 minutes?
Yeah, I know it sounds ridiculous, right? Sounds ridiculous, but it's surprisingly difficult. But if you do a bit of running, your training in the States is probably going to help. You might get 2.5.
I think we're laying the gauntlet down now.
Yeah.
60 snatches.
That's a challenge.
30 snatches, 60 kilos, as quickly as you can. Get a video of it, and we'll get it up on our Facebook page.
Oh yeah,
definitely. I'll be sure to.
And we'll lay the gauntlet down to some other lifters around the country. I think when the American lifter Kendrick Farris, when he first tried, was it Isabel?
Yeah.
When he first tried Isabel, I think it took him something like over 4 minutes, didn't it? Like 4 minutes 30 or something. And it's a guy that's snatching sort of 150 or whatever. And 60 kilos sounds like nothing, but it's amazing. I think that 30 repetitions of 60, even for someone that's that strong and has that good a snatch, is still quite a challenge.
Yeah.
And before you do it, have a look on the web, because they're doing a touch and go. They're not letting go of the bar when they do this, and it is mind blowing. And as we're on the CrossFit side, just for a second, and as you're a fellow patella tendonitis sufferer, there's a CrossFit sort of maiden in the US, and also a doctor called Julie Fouché, and she has got her own podcast, and she goes and interviews various people within CrossFit and the medical community. And she did a couple of podcasts a few months back with a nutrition specialist, and she actually recorded them around the time of the CrossFit Games last year, and his name escapes me, but the podcast is fantastic because he talks about the right nutrition for fixing tendons. One of the things he absolutely adores is vitamin C.
Oh, really?
So I'll try and find that for you and send that over to you. But
that'd be amazing.
A lot of interesting stuff on tendon recovery.
Just as the last question, what other things do you do in your life? As I say, because I think you're one of those people, as I said, that doesn't seem to be defined by weightlifting, even though you have done those numbers that are very, very good. What else do you like to do in your life? What other passions do you have? And what else are you what else are you interested in? What else are you passionate about?
I love challenging myself to different things. If someone says I can't do it, I like to think otherwise. One thing I'm going to start trying to get into now is skydiving. I've did a bit of dancing before. I did salsa before. Just something I don't like a boring life.
Yeah.
I've traveled. I've always have traveled since I was young with my family and stuff. I'm from a few different cultures. And I think that really does something exciting and something different.
Yeah.
I think at the moment I'm tied down with training and stuff, but I think as soon as my sporting life finishes, I think I do a lot of traveling and just trying different things, just challenging myself in new environments, and probably some CrossFit after. I definitely do see myself doing something like that after my weightlifting career.
Yeah, I mean,
something different.
Do you see yourself in weightlifting now moving forward in a more, I guess, a less sporadic approach to the sport? I think you had obviously that run from sort of 2011 through to 2013 where you were relatively consistently involved in the sport.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself that as of when you do that competition prior to the Europeans, do you see yourself being steadily involved for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years in competing at every Celtic champs, every British champs, every Europeans, every worlds, that kind of thing?
I can't see that at every competition at the moment. I've got myself goals in my head, and that's what I work towards. I'm not particularly after the weightlifting publicity or the weightlifting fame.
Okay.
I've X numbers in my head.
Yeah.
I want to hit them, and on a big stage too, I want them to be official.
Yeah.
And for the sport itself, I love seeing the sport grow. I love seeing the growth in weightlifting over the last few years, and seeing Zoe on that reality TV show. It was amazing to see, and seeing some of the other lifters coming through. I think it's for all elite lifters, they have a responsibility to develop the sport further. I think it's their obligation as an ambassador for the sport, that if they're lifting at an elite level, that is their role.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. Listen, Darius, thank you so much for your time today. We really do appreciate it. Is there any plugs you'd like to get in? Any websites or Twitter or sponsors or anything like that you'd like to give a mention to?
No, nothing at the moment, really.
Is there any sponsors you'd like to speak to?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely say I like to
A
speak.
good fisherman, by the sound of it.
Yeah.
But, if there's anyone out there listening that would like to, in any way, get behind Darius, drop us an email and we'll make sure we put you in contact.
Well, that would be amazing.
Cool, Darius. Thank you so much again. Massively appreciate it. I'm sure we'll catch up with you, further down the line, maybe before, the Europeans or something like that. And massive luck. We'll be following you closely. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been amazing.
Cheers, Darius. Take care.
Have a good night.
Have a great evening, mate. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.